present our young disheveled guide for this story, Ty. Cold, pensive, and somewhat reluctant, he brings this story to you, his most trusted viewer. Oh, here he is now.
My name's Ty. TUBI. Ty. And I'm gonna tell you about the most underrated movie you possibly never heard of. A movie so hidden within the TUBI catalogs, it's almost like it was trying to hide secret knowledge. The movie? The Ninth Gate. Let's move over here. Get a bit cozier. So The Ninth Gate is a movie about a book detective that gets way in over his head. He's trying to find a book that was written in cahoots with the devil. Corso is a book detective that, whose morals aren't exactly the most aligned. And I can't wait to tell you more about this. But before then, and before I get too ahead of myself, let's head inside, because this is going to be a pretty long video. Alright, I'll see you inside. The Ninth Gate is a movie made in 1999, an early Johnny Depp movie, and it's about Dean Corso, who specializes in tracking down rare and exotic volumes for collectors. Boris Balkan has recently acquired a 17th century satanic text called The Nine Gates, a legendary book written by Satan himself. With the Nine Gates in his possession, Corso soon finds himself at the center of strange and violent going-ons. Not only is his apartment ransacked, it appears that he is being shadowed ferociously, while others determined to regain the book. So that's the basic overview, and that's what Google says. So my summary of the whole thing is that basically Dean Corso is a rare book detective. He's being hired by the super shady guy named Boris Balkan, who was recommended to him by a friend at another rare bookstore. So he gets this job to find one of 3 copies of this super rare book written by Satan himself, or actually written in tandem with Satan, because another guy actually wrote the book. And as he's trying to find and get more information on these other 2 copies, while having a copy of Boris Balkan, he basically experiences a bunch of weird events that border on supernatural, border on just inconvenience and bad luck. A movie teetering on those edges of superstitious, supernatural,
Right, Sally. Go cry to mama.
Oh, that's it, you son of a bitch.
playing on not giving the audience a lot of information to work with, so that's a rough summary. Alright, on to the next. Alright, so let's go over our characters. First introduction we're going to do is Corso. The first introduction to Corso and his character is when we are shown him swindling an old money couple trying to get inventory on how much money their disabled grandfather's books are worth.
Well,
At first, Corso seems pretty nice, giving a fair judgment.
preliminary estimate, you have a collection here worth around $600,000.
Giving the family a $500,000
Yes,
pricing
about.
and offers to take a Don Quixote from them now for a fraction of what it's really worth.
Incidentally, this 4-volume edition of Don Quixote is quite nice, but not particularly valuable. Now, I could take it off your hands right away.
And you can tell that this is a little shady in terms of the dealing, just because of how fast he's trying to buy this book from them, or this collection of books, I should say. And then the camera pans to the elderly grandfather, and his hands go out his blanket, Because otherwise, before the end of this conversation, the grandfather has been pretty unresponsive until he, as in Corso, buys the book for the fraction of the price, knowing how much that thing is worth. So Corso, knowing that the only person that would even know the book's worth is pretty much mute, swindled the suitors and got that book for super low, and definitely upset a few people, and is a show of Dean Corso's character and just how low he will go to even steal from people that really can't even defend themselves or let how much the price of something is be known, and just take advantage of that whenever he can, just for a quick buck.
You here?
Hello, Whitkin.
You didn't waste much time.
Listen, there's a small fortune in there. Help yourself.
You're a vulture, Corso. A vulture.
Who isn't in our business?
You'd stoop to anything.
For Quixote by Ibarra? You bet I would.
Unscrupulous. Thoroughly unscrupulous.
Happy hunting.
In the script, for some reason, originally, instead of an old man, it was an old woman whose husband had recently deceased, which has left her mute. And basically the two younger siblings, or the two younger granddaughters and grandsons, are actually from the grandfather that has recently passed. So I don't know why I decided to change it, maybe to make it a little less convoluted, and maybe just track better in the film, since it's such a quick interaction and you wouldn't really get a lot of that context without really reading the script. Because if I was supposed to know that this was a book collection that was passed on, as opposed to from that man that's sitting in the chair to these kids, I wouldn't have got that. If someone was to take my most prized possession, which I would say is, I don't know, my collector's edition Scott Pilgrim vs. the World vinyl collection that had all the songs from the original soundtrack of the movie and adds an extra 2 minutes to all the songs, and then sell that at a Hobby Lobby or some secondhand thrift store for $20, I would have some pretty choice words with them.
It's pretty difficult to put into words how disgusted I am, how depressed I am.
So, generally so, grandfather's pissed. Alright, moving on. Next we have Boris Balkan, a professor on the dark arts and avid collector of books about the devil. The man that hires Corso to investigate all remaining copies of the Ninth Gate. Also a shady man that seems to stop at no lengths to make sure Corso does his job right and gives him the info he wants/needs. Just a few character points about this guy. Super shady guy, Boris Balkan. It is alluded throughout the movie that Boris Balkan had some sort of hand in the death of the first person we see in the film, which is going to be Mr. Telfer, and somehow got his hands on his book through either making him commit suicide or putting him in a position and giving him an offer he probably couldn't refuse.
I want you to go to Europe and investigate. The other two copies are in Portugal and France. I want you to find some way of comparing them with mine. Every page, every engraving, the binding, everything.
Anywho, it's heavily alluded that happened throughout the movie, or I at least think it is. That's my analysis. They make a lot of references to it, and throughout the film you think Boris Balkan is the one behind a lot of the things that are happening too. So I don't know, just seems like a guy, at least in the beginning, that has his hand in everything, and he proves that throughout the film that he does. I think it's also alluded that he is the devil. There are a lot of people that are alluded to be the devil within this movie. I think at least 3 people: Dean Corso, Boris Balkan, and next up on our list of introductions, the girl. Each with their own specific specifications as to why. One because either they're magical, one because they study the devil and have a lot of money and do a lot of bad things, and the other because of the greed and the pursuit of knowledge and doing things he shouldn't be doing. I don't know. It could be anybody. It really could be. I can't believe I knocked that down. It could be anybody. And with that being said, Boris Balkan is presumed to be the devil because for some reason, no matter where he's calling from, whenever he gets in contact with Corso, he never really gives up his location. Corso is on edge about this throughout the whole movie.
What about Baroness Kessler? How did you get on today?
Where exactly are you?
What about her copy?
No, why do I get the impression that you've been breathing down my neck the entire time?
You're an investment of mine, Mr. Corso. I'm merely looking after it.
And doesn't really know why he's not giving really any information on where he is, even though he's working for him. A lot of the time, or at least I thought maybe this is alluding to the guy being in hell or something, or being in cahoots with some evil sect that is making a lot of this stuff happen. That's at least what I think, or think Corso's thinking, just because as time goes on and a lot of the stuff happens within the movie, you see him start to believe in the fact that the devil could possibly exist, and maybe he's already working for them, or maybe not, who knows. Next up, the girl who actually has no name in the movie and is referenced as such. She's played by Emmanuelle singer, who's been in Bitter Moon, La Venus à la Feu, and In the House. She still acts to this day, with most recent production being An Officer and Spy, another Polanski film.
J'ai l'honneur de vous présenter Monsieur Émile Zola.
Quelqu'un doit exposer toute l'histoire. En tant qu'officier d'actif, je ne peux rien écrire là-dessus.
Vous non?
So, her character is mostly elusive at first, appearing in Balkan's class about witches and rituals. Throughout the movie, she is Corso's guardian angel, helping him when he needs it most. So I was gonna say, there's a lot of misdirections alluding to whether she is a witch or not, or somebody that even possesses magic or not. She's always in places that just seem way too convenient and knows a lot more than she lets on. Throughout the movie, she also, for some reason, is always there when Corso needs her, which is the guardian angel bit that comes throughout the whole movie. And I don't know, I think she's a really interesting character and has a lot of motifs. In the script, actually, there is a more direct romance than there is alluded to in the movie between them. Though they do share a kiss or a moment later in the movie, at this current point at the beginning, they're not really too fancy of each other, even though she ends up saving his life multiple times, and pretty much the only reason he's able to get to the places that he's gotten to. There's no romance alluded to at all until said scenes further in the movie. While in the script, once they actually get to the hotel room to ice her after she's been hit by the mustache guy, they share a kiss there, they share a moment, and they, I don't know, seem like a pair at that point. That's only in the script though. In the movie, nothing of the sort really happens after that fight, so. Lyanna Telfer, our last key character. Lyanna Telfer is the late wife of Andrew Telfer, the person that we saw in the beginning of the movie, who was viewing as unfortunately brief. She has a run-in with Corso, trying to get the book back from him in a crazy wild scuffle that leaves Corso bruised, beat up, and all meaning of the words battered. It is assumed after this encounter you won't see her again. They meet at least 3 times in the film. The first time being whenever Corso, in the beginning of the film, goes to get some more information on the book and why Mr. Telfer sold it. And he talks to her, feels her energy, her vibe, and see if she's hiding anything, or if she is, why is that? He's just doing his detective due diligence. And the interesting is, in the script, this guy is absolutely pounding for Miss Telfer. I don't even know why I know why they got rid of it, because honestly, I think it would play better. And I guess I'm just more biased to the movie because I love the movie as is. But in the script, they just make Corso seem like an absolute horn dog. He's a 30-year-old dude, and he's just like, oh my gosh, this woman is gorgeous, which the actress is gorgeous. But in the script, he's like, he has the energy of sad to see you leave, but love to see you go. And it's just so freaking cringe. And it's just like, ugh, this is, I'm glad they made these creative decisions to tweak the character a little bit in these ways in the movie. So I'm glad they did that. One big tweak, one big thing that they changed in the script for the movie is that Johnny Depp's character's name, Dean Corso, initially was Bob Corso.
It's special because your father and I planned it.
That, when I first was looking through the script, that is the most egregious name I've ever heard for a main character in my life. It's just an uninspired name. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's an uninspired name, and I don't like it.
What do I have? I have a blood-stained idea notebook filled with terrible ideas.
I'm going to assume that once they casted Johnny Depp as the role, the handsome devil that he was back in 1999, that I don't think Bob fit the character's name at all. I think it was just an awful name for a character in any sense. Sorry to all the Bobs out there. Character-wise, just not a very inspired name, character-wise. But I could not imagine Dean Corso being called Bob throughout the whole movie. I feel like it would really take me out of the movie if at any point they were just reference, oh yes, here's this very renowned and highly respected book collector, Bob Corso. No, fuck that. No, that's awful. That's all horrendous even. I just couldn't even imagine. Anywho, but Dean's character, whatever the heck, his character is completely different throughout from the script to the movie. Movie, way more stoic, way more in control of his emotions, doesn't really get flustered that easily. In the script, Dean Corso is way more emotive. He feels a little bit more human in the script just because he does have these flaws. The one in the movie is actually like just trying to get a big quick buck and stuff like that, and he's kind of selfish. That's a flaw, but the guy in the script feels just a little bit more human and a little bit more genuine as a person, even though there are people that he still like scandals and stuff and swindles and all that. There are people that he actually does care about. So they offset that in the movie by just making him way more stoic and seem like he doesn't care about anything but the money. So I don't know. There are some specific changes that I'm glad they did make, and there's some that I wish they would port over. I wish they did make Dean Corso just a little bit more personable and a little bit more, I don't know, empathetic. There's a specific scene that I think of which not necessarily shocked me, but well, thought this character is going to have a little bit more depth to them in sense of just how they care for people just in general, but I see not. And the scene that I'm talking about is whenever Dean finds Bernie's body after he has his interaction with hiding the book from Leonard Telfer. When he finds his body, it's just like that one meme could tell characters whenever anybody dies in front of them. It's kind of just that, and then he's just like, I'm gonna just scoot you aside and grab the book. Nice, it's there. All right, and it's kind of, that's it. This guy's known Bernie for years. I think in the script, they said good buddies for at least 4 years. They had known each other for a while, at least. I'm gonna have to fact check that, but I'll do that later. But in the script, he reacts way differently and actually gives some condolences to Bernie whenever he finds him dead and like looks like he's gonna shed a tear or whatever. And then in the movie, he's just like, oh fuck, push the body aside and just get the book, and he's just out of there. So, I don't know. Wish they balanced both of those. So we're gonna start with the Balkan job entry. Bernie ends up giving Corso this client, and he ends up taking the job for Bernie so that he can pocket some cash. All those two are connected. So, Balkan job entry, Bernie. We're tying threads here. We got a thread here, got a start right here, got the Balkan job entry, Bernie, Corso, Balkan right here. Then we got what I'm getting into next. So now Corso has the book after getting the job from Mr. Balkan, Senor Balkan, Guy Balkan. And throughout this, once getting the book, he basically goes to the grindstone and just starts trying to figure out as much as he can about the book. At first, initially, he's kind of stumped because as he's looking through this book, nothing's really popping out for any differences that he can really see in the beginning. He's checking pages, looking at text, looking at engravings, just trying to really check the authenticity of the book and trying to see what's kind of going on there. So we got book clues. As Corso's looking for clues for the book, he's being followed by the girl again. He sees her in the library as he's studying for clues, and she makes a swift exit as he tries to find her again. Sees her when he picks up a book, and then he sees her in the top balcony, vaguely, suspiciously, stalkingly.
I'm watching you, Wazowski.
And then she disappears. Yeah. And after going to the library, Corso ends up starting his journey for real. He talks to Telfer, tries to get her shtick on like what she thinks about the book, whether she thinks it's real. She tries to tell Corso that maybe he's messing with things he doesn't understand, and that maybe there is some truth to this book and what is going on with all these people. Maybe it was made in cahoots with the devil. Damn, this haze is crazy. Anywho, so he talks to her, and he's just like, okay, that lady's crazy. She almost beat me half to death, left me, tried to take my book. She probably had something to do with killing my buddy. I can't believe this. I need to get out of town. So Corso ends up flying to Spain.
Every single player wants to get his hands on that trophy.
He ends up flying to Spain because he's trying to find the original place that the Telfers bought the book to begin with. So he goes there. As he's going there, he is told by the people that sold the book originally that there are 2 different types of signatures on the book. One from the original author, and one strangely signed LCF. Yeah, LCF could be Lucifer. Corso doesn't really buy it. He's like, you're not going to tell me that, you know, the devil's real and what's going on there is, you know, actually something that I should be worried about. But, you know, then those two little short guys is just like, hey.
You joined an alliance with the devil and went to the stake for it. Even hell has its heroes, senor.
Even hell has its heroes. And I'm like, all right. That's a line, that's a bar. Catch me playing Hades. Hades 2 just bought it. Steam Christmas sale, guys. Now's the time to get Hades 2. If you haven't gotten it, get it. Hey, great game, great series. Hell's Heroes. Anyway, skipping that. So as he's looking through these, he figures out that there are differences between the pages, and some of them are signed Lucifer and some of them are signed with the original author's name. All right. Yada, yada, yada. As he's walking into this place, you know, he passes his beam, super sturdy, you know, looks all right. As he's leaving after getting this very imperative piece of information, hey, he has to run for his life away from these beams. They're trying to crush him. They're trying to stop him on his path of knowledge. It's scary, scary stuff. Super spooky. But, yeah, there's actually one interesting difference between this scene, between the script and the movie. In the script, for some reason, they took out a scene of a boy trying to find his mom and running to her and asking for help and stuff like that. In the movie, they just took that out for whatever reason. Honestly, in the script, it kind of did seem like a nothing scene. Maybe they were just trying to add ambience to the like space, but it wasn't really needed in the final production. So I don't know. Not sure why they changed that, but just thought it was interesting to know. All right. After getting those clues from the 2 twins, he ends up going to his, you know, actual location to be at in Spain, which is where the second book is of the Ninth Gate. He goes there and he finds out that it's an old money guy that's had the book for a pretty long time. He's kind of falling into a rut because he's kind of having to sell his stuff. Doesn't want to sell his estate, and asks him if he can look at his copy of the book to kind of compare differences, to see if there are any differences to begin with. Because Corso at this point kind of just believes he's been sent on like a nothing journey to just waste time. So he gets to the old guy's collection, and as they're looking through it, you know, they're comparing both their copies, and basically physically the only difference is just a small, you know, marking on the back of the book. And as he's doing that, he's finding that there's different things with the pictures. Some guys holding 2 sticks, more arches than there are in his book and another book. And the differences between the books all seem to be signed with Lucifer's tag. So basically this kind of, you know, jump starts Corso's journey to kind of give him some direction on what he needs to do and where he needs to go and what he's really looking for. So Corso ends up, you know, reading the book, going through all the differences, comparing the pages and the pictures, and takes his leave. As he takes his leave though, somebody tries to hit him with their car. Do the digital dash and like hit the guy on his way out, but luckily he is saved by some mysterious figure that we just can't place who it is, and you know, they drive off. So very, very, very cool, very strange, very interesting. And Corso basically leaves to kind of take note of what happens today and stays at a hotel. All right, so after Corso ends up comparing the differences of the book and having a narrow escape with the guy trying to hit him with the car and his guardian angel coming back and saving him, he ends up coming back to the location to ask some more questions, and when he gets there, he ends up finding that the old man is dead. D-E-A-D, capital D-E-A-D. He is sleeping with the fishes, quite literally. It's kind of fucked up because he was such a sweet guy. He really was a sweet guy, you know, had no ulterior motives, just a grand guy that just had this crazy book and ends up getting murked. Yeah, and it's off screen too. Couldn't even do the respect of doing it on screen, which is so fucked up. Corso sees his body, kind of the same reaction that he had with Benny. He's kind of like, jeez, God, I gotta get that book, I guess. Him with his guardian angel. She ends up scaling inside the house and going inside, do some impressive acrobatics, getting in there, unlocking the door, letting him in. They end up getting inside and finding that the book is half burned, with the pages that he needs missing, so he knows he's onto the right track. After that, Corso ends up going to this elderly woman that also has the third and final copy of the book. Initially, Corso is trying to be a kind of obtuse about who sold him the book, who he got it from, and who his client is, just because he knows that Balkan doesn't have a really good reputation, which ends up not getting his way, and she ends up confronting him about it, and how she's, you know, how disrespected she is that, you know, he tried to lie to her. While talking to his lady and not really getting to compare the book, he has to leave and, you know, doesn't get to come back. He calls Balkan and tells him that he, you know, she won't end up letting him see the book, so, you know, the job's done there is. But Balkan is dead set on getting these last pages transcribed. So he ends up waiting until his, you know, secretary's gone and just walks in and kind of just says hi, apologizes, and it's just like, yeah, can I check on your pages now? And she's like, okay, I guess. Which is cool. Then he ends up getting knocked the fuck out again. This man is 2 for 2, has not protected himself once. Ridiculous. Honestly, ridiculous. I say that, but I probably wouldn't do any better in his situation. So he ends up getting knocked out, wakes up probably like 15-20 minutes later to the place smelling of smoke, on fire. He goes to check on the elderly woman, finds that she is D-E-A-D. Anywho, she's dead, super dead, and he's like, fuck, I need to get the hell out of here. He tries to find her copy and gets all his notes before he leaves, but sees that her copy's in flames with the same pages that he needs missing, so he gets the hell out of there. He reports back to Balkan that he's gotten all the pages, gotten all the differences, and Balkan's like, good, your job's done, now you just need to get back to me. After he ends up checking into the main hotel where the girl is, he ends up asking a favor of the main guy at the front desk to kind of find out if there's anybody that's pretty rich, and looks like Leona Telfer is within the city and staying at a hotel. Says to start with the 5 stars. Super smart, cool. When he gets back from this unfortunate proceeding with the elderly woman that had the third copy of the book, you know, he ends up asking whether they've, you know, found that hotel room that they're in, and he ends up reporting back that he has. So him and his guardian angel, Corso, and his guardian angel end up going to that hotel room that they found and, you know, locating Leona Telfer. They end up finding her hotel and the mustache guy, but they're about to leave as they are, you know, getting there. So they end up taking a, you know, red Corvette, very inconspicuous, and tailing them on the way there to try to see where they're going with this book. They tail them, they lose them for a moment, and then they end up tailing them again, you know, her kind of being kind of cheeky and giving him the chance to pick, and, you know, him kind of just being like, you know everything, so she ends up picking. They get to the home. It's a giant mansion, definitely a lot of money going into this, definitely a lot of rich benefactors that probably contribute to this area as well. Anywho, so they end up getting in there and hiding around, sneaking in, trying to find Leona Telfer. There's a little skippy scene of her walking around in her little devil cloak robes. And Just when she's about to leave, they bust out, confront her, and say that they're gonna get the book back. And they take the book and they tie her up, and then, they take the book, they scuffle a little bit, and then the mustache guy comes in, setting the record straight, might I add. Looking sharp, man. His mustache is just as lethal as he is. I swear to God. He looks good. Looks good. When they get the book back, she pulls a fucking pistol out on him. Dangerous cannon just right here at him. In the script, it actually was going to be an AK-47, and I can only imagine how wild it would be if they pulled that out. Just fucking just start spraying all over the room. I mean, I don't even know why they had the thing as a threat if they weren't even going to use it. But that is the second time I've done that. Wow, could you believe it? If I had a nickel for every time I do it, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's strange that they did it twice. So mustache guy ends up taking him down and walking down the corridor and prepares to sacrifice these bozos right before they get to the ritual. Johnny Depp ends up having a, Lionheart moment and, says, watch out, flips the guy out, knocks him out cold, takes the gun, takes his robe, and leaves him butt booty ass naked in the middle of that cold, rocky floor. It's fucked up. Dean Corso infiltrates the ritual and kind of see that they're about to use the book when Boris Balkan, big man on campus, big man Balkan, walks in and stops the whole sham ritual. Little do you know, Balkan has been a part of these devil ritual encounters this whole time. He's actually a member of the club, or used to be before he tried to take the book and all of its knowledge for itself. Crazy stuff. He walks in saying, mumbo jumbo.
Mumbo jumbo. Mumbo jumbo. Mumbo jumbo.
My favorite line of the movie. I love mumbo jumbo. And in the script, it actually, Leon Telfer ends up saying this early on, and it's referenced later by having Balkan say it, which I thought was a really cool tie-in. But he walks in saying mumbo jumbo, kind of taking the reins of this whole devil encounter, and just walks up and takes the fucking book. Takes the book right out of her hands, and nobody does anything about it. Leon Telfer rightfully obviously gets upset and tries to kill the guy over the book. And while they're scuffling, he takes her necklace, starts choking her with it, and then Corso tries to do a good deed and stop him. But the guardian angel's like, just let this shit run its course, Doc. You do not want to be where that guy is. So Corso basically watches this man choke the life out of this woman's eyes, and disrespectfully, this is the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen in a movie ever done to a body afterwards. He takes the corpse, or the corpse is just there, but he's fucking, he freaking gooch scoots the woman 4 feet across the floor in the middle of all her followers, and then says boo. I'm and then they all run away. No, I wouldn't go out dirty like that. I just wouldn't let it happen. I don't know what I would do about it, but I just couldn't let it happen. A curse, a pox, some bad enchantment upon your family lineage for tenfold. But you're not doing that to me, okay? I'm making sure of it. I am making sure of it. Corso ends up watching this happen, and he's kind of starstruck, and he's like, why wouldn't you stop me, or why'd you stop me? And the girl's kind of now you're off the hook for all those murders. You just saw this guy, this guy was just witness killing this woman with 40 other witnesses, so you're off the hook now. And he's like, oh, thank goodness. Thank you for that. So Corso ends up following Balkan to where he's going with the book, and he ends up finding Balkan preparing a ritual. Now, the whole time this is going on, this whole movie, Corso is kind of basically on the fence that any of this stuff is actually happening, whether any of this is actually from dark arts, or whether this stuff is just crazy, happenstance of people just being knowledgeable. The only scenes, and I'm not even sure if Corso saw this happen, was when the witch, the girl, floated down off the staircase, and actually, that's the only evidence that anything magical is going on at this point. So we get to Balkan going ahead and starting this ritual with all the pages, and he prepares to light himself on
The
fire.
road that leads to
He's got the circle, he's got the candles, he's got the pages, and he's about to have the power of everything. And he's literally, you know, about to, like, he honestly doesn't even care Corso's there. He's like, I bet you're just curious too, eh, chap? And Corso's like, no, you don't deserve this power or whatever. And they have like a really half-hearted scuffle, and he just like sits in a hole for like the rest of this ritual.
Come with me.
But he does nothing about it. Yeah, this whole scuffle actually went a little differently. In the script, Balkan didn't want to give him the money. He's like, I found the book that you lost, so you're not gonna get anything. You don't deserve it. Wow, in the movie, he's just like, yeah, take the money and stop ruining my ritual. I got shit to do. I got things to do. Really funny difference. But you know, so Corso ends up being stuck in this hole and just sitting there for the whole ritual, and kind of watches Balkan, you know, go insane. He sets himself on fire, and I just let the scene play out. The ritual ends up being a complete failure. He ends up, setting himself on fire and dying. Corso finally ends up wriggling himself out of the hole and ends up leaving Balkan while he's, his wails are going on. He ends up mercy killing him and ends up shooting him with the very pistol that he was held up against. He ends up finding that in his coat, probably put there by the mysterious girl, and he, does Balkan a favor and, takes him out. In the script, the girl actually ends up helping Corso out of the ground as opposed to him helping himself out, and they kind of leave Balkan to his own devices in the script to die in agony. Probably because in some way he ended up deserving that with kind of how he had his hand in everybody else's death throughout this whole movie. So Corso leaves before the place goes up in flames. As he's leaving, though, he finds a girl there waiting for him to come out. And she's like, did you get what you wanted? Did you find out all the things that you wanted? And he's kind of just like over it at this point and kind of trying to wonder like why he even did all this if the book was just fake. And the girl ends up telling him that maybe there was something wrong with the ritual. Maybe she switched out some of the pages and one of them were phony. Who knows? Only time would tell. After that, she ends up doing some magic on Corso and kind of stupefying him as they go through a crazy fire and magic-fueled intimate scene. Can't really show that on YouTube, but you're just gonna take it for me that it's pretty crazy, pretty intense. Yeah, it is pretty insane. After that, Corso ends up going to his own devices and going back to America. Before he goes back, though, he visits the shop just to kind of see what they're doing and see if he missed anything, because the girl left a clue on his card that one of those pages were actually wrong. He goes back to the twins to see that they're packing up shop, or actually they've already left, and that some new people are moving in. As they're moving the last bookcase, they tilt it over and one of the mystifying pages rolls back down and falls right into Corso's hands. Corso takes the page and goes back to the final resting place where Balkan set himself aflame. And once he goes back there with the final page and the final missing piece of the puzzle, the movie ends. It doesn't really give any insight as to what happens or what he ends up doing with the power, or if there even is a power. It's kind of left really open-ended, kind of how all the supernatural stuff is kind of left throughout the movie. I looked at a few other forums. I tried to look to see if maybe there's an explanation for how it ended. I even read the script, as you know, and tried to see if it said anything there, and it doesn't. It's just that. My interpretation is that Corso did end up completing the ritual and it was successful, and that his final right was either going up to heaven or becoming one of the devil's right-hand mans. That being the girl who is seen to be the devil throughout. Instead of a guardian angel, it's actually the devil that's been helping Corso out and keeping him alive the whole time. And the book that the girl was actually supposed to read in the script was The Devil in Love. So, the script and everything that I found out there is that Corso and the devil end up together and, having a kid or something like that. They end up doing the devil's tango, summoning the devil somehow. That either being their kid or Corso becoming the new, Prince of Darkness or whatever like that. Now that he has the books, all the knowledge, and all the pages. So that's my interpretation of how the movie ended. I think it's really fun. I like movies that end like that kind of leave it for the watcher to decipher or come to their own conclusions and answers. So it left a lot for the watcher to, kind of decipher and determine. It's kind of like a mystery you're solving along the way with Corso. Also trying to figure out the, thin line there is between fact and fiction, supernatural and real life, and just, real forces playing into all the things that happen within this movie. I really enjoyed it, and I know that there were a bunch of spoilers in here, but I hope that you go give this movie a watch for yourself. I really enjoyed the movie. It's one of my current favorite movies. Gave it a 5-star on Letterboxd, and I will post my Letterboxd up here somewhere in this video. I'll put it up. It's on TUBI for free. I love TUBI. It's one of my favorite streaming services, especially for classics, or just, older movies like from the 90s, 70s, 80s, and all that jazz. So definitely give it a watch if you are intrigued. I'm going to put some of my favorite scenes up, and thank you for watching. Mumbo Jumbo.